Well, welcome everybody to our second Zoom face-to-face of 2024. And and we're really happy to have you here. This series, my idea of the series this year was to hear from people in their 20s, late 20s and 30s. There's a lot of really interesting 20 something, 30 something year olds in the area. And I wanted to make sure that we got to hear about from them and what kinds of things they're doing in order to keep themselves in this area and make it work for them. So in the, and I've only doing this for four kids, four people, not kids, young adults. So there's so many other people that could be in this list. But tonight we have Wyatt Berrier here. Thanks, Wyatt. And we all know Wyatt, but maybe not the story of how he came back and got here. So really happy to have you, Wyatt. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Amy, and I'll just let my stage fright just calm down a little bit here. It's the second time I'm doing public speaking for the day. I was on the drive time today, but yeah, thank you so much for putting this series on, and it's really great. I loved hearing about Molly's story last week, and looking forward to the future here. So, do we have anybody left to join? I saw a couple last minute people here. All righty, great. Well, I'm Wyatt. For those of, I know I see all these familiar names on the chat room here. Thank you everybody for joining us. And I've got a little story for you. I've been cooking up some pictures, collaborating some photos for you to walk through, and just to tell you a little bit about kind of what brought me from graduation at UNH in 2015 up to now. So a little bit of an interesting saga. So it's my time after college seems to break. Oh my gosh, I'm getting a phone call. You know what? Let me just put this right on airplane mode here. 1 second. Thank you. I don't know why I didn't do that before. Airplane mode. Thank you. Okay. I'm back. Okay, so my time after college, I went to UNH for 4 years, was able to study abroad 3 times and made a bunch of friends down there. So, and it was just far enough away to be separated from Tamworth and my parents and my life here growing up, but close enough to visit easily. So that was really nice. But so since then, my time has been broken up into kind of 3 phases. So I've always had the travel itch, the travel bug, and always wanted to get out and see the world. So after college, I saved up, saved up a bunch and did some traveling, which I'll talk about here. And then, so that was phase 1, kind of scratching the travel itch. Phase 2 was moving away from home. So growing up in a small town, I always wanted to kind of live somewhere else, experience new things, and Tamworth was all I really had ever known, minus, traveling here and there. So it was really something I needed to do. I didn't know when I was going to be able to do it or why or how, but I knew that's what was coming next. And then the third phase is returning to my rightful place, which is here. And I've grown to know that over time and appreciate this town more and more. And just the people in it and the beauty of the area, it's just, there's so many layers to it that are hard to explain, but everyone who lives here knows. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. Again, thanks for bearing with me. I don't normally do Zoom calls. I'm always just on the phone or whatever, but here we go. Let me see. Okay, so graduated UNH in 2015 and came home. I was so prior to college, in the summers between college and high school, I was a landscaper around town. For those of you who do not know, I was self-employed, just kind of doing my own thing, mowing lawns, weed whacking, stacking wood, doing a little bit of chainsawing here and there. So Can everyone see my screen okay? I hope so.
Yes, it looked great.
Yeah, that's a good wood stack right there. So graduated UNH in May of 2015, came home, and I had the plan of doing a big solo trip around the world already kind of cooking up in my mind. So came home, worked really hard all summer and fall, and saved up and started planning. So it ended up being a 3-month solo trip dubbed my Pacific Triangle. So it was Japan, New Zealand, and then the west coast of the United States. And I'll kind of explain a little bit more, but basically, so I had played this online computer game called RuneScape for many, many, many years and had grown to know this friend named William. He was from the United States, but was stationed in Japan in the U.S. Navy. So he and I planned a trip. I flew over to Tokyo to meet up with him, and we traveled around Japan for let's see, 2 weeks or something. Let me just oh, here's a photo of me in the air on the way to Tokyo. And I wrote a blog about my Pacific Triangle trip. I'll share that in the chat later on, the link to that. So I had never met him in person, but we had a really great time in Japan. Let me see here. This is us near Mount Fuji. And just a really, I mean, there's so many details that I'm not going to go into right now. This talk would last 5 hours, but so we road tripped around a little bit, and I was noticing that a lot of people were wearing masks, and little did we all know that that trend would be coming east or west, depending on how you want to go. Let me see. This is I've got a little robe going into a public bath there. So we flew from Tokyo after 2 weeks to New Zealand. We had a 12-hour layover in the Gold Coast of Australia. So this photo is taken from the tallest tower. I think it was Q1 or something like that, of the Gold Coast, and it's a surfing area, and I don't know, a little bit of tourism. So a little secret. So if you're gonna find a travel buddy, make sure that they align with your style. So one example was he opted to stay in the airport for 12 hours, and I wanted to go out and explore while we still had time. I didn't want to sit there staring at my phone or whatever for that amount of time when I was in Australia for a little bit of, half a day. So I went out and explored and went up in this tower, and then I found this postcard. I think this is the one. I found it online, and I thought it was super funny at the time. I I sent it to my friend Tommy from UNH, and wrote him a little message on the back, and didn't think anything of it. So he's got an odd sense of humor anyway. So later on in the trip, in my trip, he received the postcard, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a bit. So after the layover in Australia, went to New Zealand, and this is at a hostel. Met up with these Austrian guys, and had a really good connection with them. Stayed in touch for years after that. So stayed in an Airbnb. This is when I kind of fell in love with Airbnb. Stayed in a bus on top of a mountain right before we took the ferry over the Cook Strait to the North Island of New Zealand. And let's see here. Yeah, this is us in Hobbiton. That's William on the left, and another friend from RuneScape in the middle. He was a local New Zealander. So this is kind of a conglomeration of receipts and different things from the 3-month trip. But inside those 3 months, I had planned on heading out to Portland, Oregon, to do a kind of a graphic design apprenticeship with my aunt. And later, halfway through the trip, decided that that might not be what I was wanting to do. So I had this month gap. So Tommy gets this postcard, and we talk on the phone. He calls me up, and he was kind of in the a transitional period of his life, and he was thinking about quitting his job. And I had this month, and we said, I don't know how it came about, but basically we planned a long, either a 3 or 5,000 mile road trip around the west coast of the U.S. To see a bunch of national parks. And so that's in the bottom left corner, the annual pass, the National Park Pass, $80 for as many national parks as you want to see in a year. But I don't know if the price might have gone up. Anyway, so he quit his job. He flew out to LA. I picked him up in a rental truck, and we drove around for a month and really developed our friendship. We were friends before, but just really we had a lot in common and really enjoyed the trip, and just became really close friends. So this is kind of the route that we went: LA to Death Valley, Vegas, up to Zion, Moab. Went to Telluride to see Silas over there on the far east side there. Hiked the Grand Canyon down and back in a single day. Went back to LA and kind of zigzagged up the coast, and dove in Monterey Bay. Went to Yosemite. So basically every national park that we went to, I wanted to make a point of doing a hike in every park. So, and then at the end of the trip, this was me with the largest beard I've ever had. And ever since then, I've tried to trim it down a bit and be a little more presentable. And right when I got back, it was April of 2016. And that was when the Tamworth 250th celebration was happening. So I helped put the mosaic up on the ret school there, and I didn't have the opportunity to put any of it together, but at least I had a little hand in it, and it was pretty neat to see that taking shape. Then I did kind of the same thing. I wanted to save up again, travel, and then I ended up joining an AmeriCorps program out in Southern California, a chainsaw crew in the Los Padres National Forest, just north of LA. But before then, went on a European adventure. Went to Portugal, Spain, Austria, Switzerland, and Germany. And that in and of itself is a whole long story. So there's a map for you. This is the crew, the 10-person crew, I think it was, in Southern California, chainsawing 4 days a week and going on weekend adventures. So I did that in the first part of 2017. Yeah, just really developed my skills there, my Sawyer skills. Then came back to Tamworth and said, I had linked up with some cousins out in Bellingham, Washington. Said, I'd love to move out there and just see something new. So this is phase 2 of my kind of time after college, the moving away from home, which is a super emotional, sad time to cut the umbilical cord and drive west solo. I drove across the whole country in 3.5 days straight, and then kind of established myself in Bellingham and started kind of doing odd projects on my cousin's farm there. This is up in Vancouver, taking a picture of a seagull, but which is pretty close over the border there. And so I was living in what was called the goat pen. Basically, there was a guest room up above their goat pen, which you had to go in the gate and then go in another gate and go up some stairs to my room. It was attached to the barn. So this one day, the gate was open and the door was open, and I was trying to clean my room apparently, and the goat came up and said hello. So then I wasn't really getting anywhere in Bellingham, wanted to try something new. So I signed up with the AmeriCorps St. Louis. It was the emergency response team. So in St. Louis, Missouri, dealing with kind of conservation projects with local establishments, doing some prescribed burning, and also natural disaster response. So hurricanes, flooding. Anyway, so we did prescribed burning here. This is me in the woods of Missouri. Also with a large beard again. I don't know. I guess I didn't. Anyway, so then after that program went back to Bellingham, moved back, started working at my cousin's burger restaurant out there as a server for a few months. And then Tommy, so this is Tommy from the road trip, and he was at another turning point in his life, and he happened to be in the West Coast of the Pacific Northwest, came to visit me, and said this was, I think, January or something of 2019. And he told me that he was getting his real estate license in New Hampshire in March of that year. And at that time, I was not really feeling the serving job that much. It was not my style. Had to give it a go, but I really wanted to, it kind of took the separation, took me being on the other side of the country and only seeing my parents and family and friends, or most of them, once or twice a year. And I said, you know what, this is not going to be sustainable. This is something I want to see change, and maybe New Hampshire isn't so bad after all. So I was looking for some avenue to move back to the East Coast, back to New Hampshire, and not be doing hard physical labor anymore. I'd done landscaping for years and was working hard and knew that I was just getting older, and didn't want to be 50 or 60 years old and working myself into the ground physically. So wanted to be self-employed, wanted to be not doing the hard physical labor, and wanted to be closer to friends and family and parents. So he said he was getting his license, and I said, well, why not? Why not give it a go? So moved back. Oh, but no, wait. I guess you probably had enough of the shirtless man with the goat. Let's go to the next photo. So we, in the meantime, my immediate family, mom, dad, and Silas, we had planned a long-awaited trip to Alaska for the first time ever. Our friend Tom Egan, I don't know if any of you remember him from living here way back. He had been asking us for years and years and years to go up and visit him in Alaska ever since he'd moved there. And we finally said, heck, we're going to go. So the four of us spent a month. Well, 3 out of the 4 of us spent a month. Silas was able to come for 2 weeks in the summer of 2019. So my plan was to go to Alaska, come back to Bellingham, pack my stuff up, and drive back east. So this is us at a glacier, and it's pretty amazing how quickly those glaciers are receding. We saw the year markers of, how quickly they're melting, and in our lifetimes, just an insane jaw-dropping amount. And this is us overlooking by Homer, Alaska. Coming back to Bellingham after an unforgettable trip in Alaska, so my friend Dan flew out and agreed to help me pack up my car and drive back. I could have done it solo again, but it's always nice to have company and someone to swap off when you're tired driving. So this was us packing up the back of the car, jamming all of my life possessions in. Moved into Manchester, New Hampshire with Tommy. He had a multifamily, and we were up on the third floor, sorry. And had this little Scion TC on the left, little kind of, got it when I was a teenager, and was looking to become a professional realtor, and knew that was not probably the car for it. So opted for the RAV4 hybrid. which you see the blue flash driving around Tamworth these days. And then COVID happened, so got my real estate license on November 1st of 2019, and was going into the office regularly down there, the Bedford office, every day pretty much, and learning a tremendous amount. And then 2020 came around, and we heard rumors and murmurs of something coming from the West, and coming into the States. And my first ever real estate closing was on Friday, March 13th of 2020. And that is when the president declared a national emergency for the coronavirus disease outbreak. On that, the day after, on the 14th, I flew to Bellingham, Washington again to see my cousins. I wanted to surprise my cousin for her birthday. And it was a normal plane ride there. Was there for a week. The plane ride on the way back had 5 people on the plane. And that was when things were really getting very real. So flew back and was in Manchester. Things were shutting down. I wasn't going to the office anymore. I was cooped up in this little apartment, and said, I'm going to go back to Tamworth for a little bit to kind of ride this out. Probably last a couple weeks, and we all know how that went. So went back to Tamworth, stayed 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. And I had seen this front porch photo concept online where they would take socially distant pictures of people on their front porches for COVID. And I said, well, you know what? That's a great idea. I love photography. I'm moving back to town. I'm going to introduce my back, kind of reconnect with folks around town and offer a cool thing. And so photographed over 100 families on their porches here. And someday I will be making a photo book. I do say that, and it's going to happen. Just gonna get around to it. So we got Peggy Johnson, we got Bob and Amy, we've got Susan and Dick Horn. Susan of the White Bench, you probably all remember her posting everything for sale and everything, moving out of the Grover Cleveland house. And then certainly my parents and myself, and Farley, who just turned 13 last week, Patrick and Laurel up on Cleveland Hill Road, and our friend Lloyd Haddon. So these are just a few of my favorites, and I really don't have any that are not my favorites, because every one of those photos has a story, and I remember all those conversations well, which is really great. So during this time period in 2020, I was, wanting to establish myself kind of in town and kind of lay down some roots. Didn't want to live at my parents' house forever, surprise, surprise. And so I was kind of looking around for different spots that might be good building opportunities for my forever home. And then I was finally convinced, and sense was talked into me through several sources, to build on my parents' property. So they had a good amount of acreage. They were willing to cut off the northern half for me. And so this is my dad clearing the house site, and Farley keeping tabs. And he is always a trusty sidekick. So, was working on establishing myself and making a name for myself with real estate in the area, and really have had a tremendously positive experience with that, and just have loved this new, surprisingly this new career that's surprisingly a perfect fit. It's a really great combination. I like I said before, I love photography. With writing the descriptions, I love using my words to craft those descriptions there, and working with people and doing new things all the time, and not having a regular, rigid schedule, which is the same thing in and out every day. So anyways, just so seeing different homes constantly, and throughout the 4 years that I've been selling homes, I've taken kind of little ideas and pictures of interesting things that I've seen, and kind of taken note. And so building my new home here, I've kind of blended all of those things together, which is a really cool thing that I've taken away from it. And I accomplished my goal of working from home when I'm not on appointments or anything. And so creating my own schedule, not having to report to a boss, which was a really important factor in my decision. So, and the whole self-motivation thing behind being self-employed, the more time and effort I put in, the more results I see. So this billboard here, I don't know if any of you remember the old dilapidated billboard that had, I think, Canoe King, Yankee Smokehouse, Thule Rack, and it's right over there. You've probably all seen it, and it was kind of a sad sight for sore eyes, or maybe that's not the right saying, but it was in rough shape, let's just say. So I took out my pen again and wrote a little note to the landowner and said, "Hey, love the opportunity to utilize that billboard if you're not, needing it right now." And I guess it wasn't being used, so she was more than happy to oblige. And Skip Mason and Skip and Michael Mason actually helped resurrect the upper triangle. Thank you again. There's some old rotten plywood there, so now it's in good shape, and it's got a new facelift. And so one thing, it's kind of neat with going back to building my home or having my home built. I'm not the carpenter. Many thanks to my trusty parents and subcontractors as well. But being heavily involved with the building process and just the whole, from digging the foundation hole all the way to the finishing touches, has really, it's kind of been like taking a class for myself and learning all of the terms and being able to speak more intelligently to questions people ask me when I'm showing homes or when I'm at a home inspection or when I'm doing this or that. It really has applied quite perfectly to my work. So that is something that I've certainly taken advantage of the opportunity and learned as much as I can. So, and it all kind of comes full circle to, what I said in the beginning, kind of like my rightful place is this town, with the Bryant family, which is on my father's side, going back to the town charter. I'm very lucky to be building my forever home on my, old ancestral family property. So it's really been a tremendous treat to move back to Tamworth after kind of scratching the travel itch a little bit, with much more to come, and really connecting in a very positive way back into the town, president of the outing club, and running this comedy show now in Silas's memory, and really just reconnecting with so many people. It's really a treat. So I really wouldn't have it any other way. I'd love living here, and anywhere that I've traveled around the world, I always ask myself, would I rather live here? And the answer is always no. Rather come back to town here and be with the people that I know and love. And no matter, how small of a town you live in, you can always travel the world. You can always go anywhere you want. But I just find it so valuable to be so far away from all the chaos of city life and just be back to our roots. So that is my talk, and I think I kind of covered everything I wanted to. And now I will stop sharing my screen, and I will come back to, let me see here, stop share. And I think I'm good here. I'm going to stop having the camera point up my nose. And can everyone still hear me?
Yeah, you're great, Wyatt.
Cool.
Anybody that wants to jump in and have something to say to Wyatt, unmute yourself and leap in. What about the postcard, says Louise?
Oh, Louise, did you get the part about the postcard from Australia that I sent Tommy, and that was kind of the catalyst to our trip? Oh yeah, so I'll kind of give a recap to that.
Oh, I got that.
So it was why I called this the power of a postcard was because sending one postcard to my friend was enough to inspire him to reach out to me, for us to become more, closer friends, and then for him to down the line, years, a couple years down the road, to think of, he visited me in Washington State. He told me about the new career that he was working on, and really it kind of paved the path for, my return to Tamworth in the best way that I wanted to. And it's just a kind of a dream career. So uh, that's the power of a postcard. It's kind of like, it's not the perfect connection, but you know how the fluttering of a butterfly's wings out in the ocean it's said to, create different things in the, a hurricane or whatever. It's not really a good connection, but it's kind of the thing that got the wheels moving. So
Thanks, Wyatt.
yeah,
We're glad you're home.
so happy to be here.
So Wyatt, this is Maureen Diamond,
Hi,
and I'm
Maureen.
wondering, will you let us know when your international friends come to Tamworth?
Sure. And I could even put it on the exchange and seeing if anybody wants to put them up.
That'll
My
be good.
Yeah, so it was funny with the Austrian guys. So I forgot to say that, I was busy writing all these notes down to talk about, but I kind of so Heidi Engman introduced us years ago to this game called Bones. It's a dice game, and so I had this little bag of 5 dice and a pen and paper, pencil and notebook for scorekeeping in my bag that I was carrying around on that 3-month trip. And I was at this hostel, and I'm not terribly shy, so I said, "Hey guys, want to play this dice game?" And we played, became friends, and so we met each other on the South Island of New Zealand. We saw each other again on the ferry crossing the Cook Strait. Then we met up again for a 12-mile alpine crossing on the North Island of New Zealand, which was where they filmed The Lord of the Rings, Mount Doom. That's where we hiked right by there. Then we stayed in touch, and I later met up with them in Seattle at a hostel. Just so happened, I think, no, later in that trip I did. And then on my 5-country European trip, I stayed with them at their house in Austria and then went skiing in the Austrian Alps. So just kind of not being afraid to introduce myself, to say, "Hey, you want to play this game?" It's kind of another cool little story that was born, and I stay connected with them sometimes, and maybe they'll come to Tamworth someday. I think you're muted if you're saying something.
It's pretty cool to feel like that this is home, that this is where you want to be after
Yeah.
traveling. I
Yeah.
think that's what's so inspiring, to hear other people your age who are finding that
Mhm.
finding ways to be here is
Mhm.
so important to them.
Yeah. And Ned, you said, "What do you think about Tamworth? What is it about it?" And I was just kind of thinking of that answer when Amy was talking. It's a kind of the perfect combination of community, natural beauty, and just kind of any hometown of you already know so many people. You've spent your whole life getting to know these folks, and just being able to strike up a conversation anywhere you go. That's the comfort of a hometown. But then combined with where we are, the lack of hurricanes or poisonous insects or tornadoes or something. We got the weather covered, and I love the four seasons, but I think it's the combination of the natural beauty and the small town vibe and the community, and just it's got so many layers of reasons why Tamworth is the spot. Hey, Rich Collins is trying to get in here. So yes.
All these people who are coming at the end, huh?
Well, good thing we recorded it. So
Yeah.
Mary Cronin.
Yeah, Mary's saying that I do record these. They are on our YouTube site, so you can check in and see what you've missed. And I'll also say that next week, just before people start to leave, we'll totally let you have more time, Wyatt. But Finn Mahoney's going to talk about starting a trail fixing collective after his time of working with the AMCs. So check in what Finn Mahoney's doing around here. But Wyatt, anything else that you want to remember? Polly, you have your hand up.
Oh,
You're
looking
go ahead,
forward-
Polly. You're
My
there.
little cartoon hand. Wyatt, I'm curious, what is rewarding and what is challenging about being a realtor in your hometown, in a town that you've lived in for so long?
Let me see, what is rewarding and what is challenging? That is a great question. There are so many answers that I could come up with. I guess what is challenging is, sometimes sales aren't always going to work out, or things aren't always going to work out as I want them to, or someone else is going to come in and, they're going to hire somebody else, or sometimes clients are difficult to deal with, and I do my very, very best to, help everyone accomplish the goals that they want to. But I don't know, I guess it's just a combination of challenging things, but I am up for a challenge, and I'm always willing to, do what it takes to make it happen, and just for a win-win situation all around. I guess the rewarding things about being a realtor in town here and just in this area is that I just get to brag. I get to brag about Tamworth so much to people who see these houses, and also just I find I'm very proud when I represent a property, because I can not only speak effectively to what the home is and what the property consists of, but also I can fill people in on all this information that they're missing otherwise. Like if they're bringing a buyer's agent in from Alton who doesn't know much about town here, I can really help round out that experience for them. And it's just, I don't know, I kind of enjoy. Yeah. Also, I really like working with such a variety of people, and kind of getting to know, people, what makes people tick. I kind of observing as we go through the different processes. And so it's just kind of I don't know, it's helped me grow as a person. And so I really do like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Kathleen, go ahead.
A few years ago, you asked for suggestions about what you should have in a house. Was that for your own house?
Yes, it
And
was.
at what stage is your house right this minute?
I'm sitting in my house right this minute, and that was so to answer your first question. Well, thank you for tuning in, by the way. Answer your first question. Yes, that question on the exchange, for those of you who remember, that was for my own home, and it was that was pre-construction before I even really started finalizing the designs for it. And let me see here. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Anyway, I have a whole list of photos and tips from that email specifically. Oh, recipe for a dream home. There it is. So it's this thing, Google Keep. It's a Google service app, and you get photos. And I've taken all these photos over the years, and what I've seen it online and in person on showings and whatnot. And then you get to the notes, and those are all of the exchange answers and tips that I've gotten from friends. And so I I was a little obsessive over making sure I wasn't missing any details that people had thrown at me. The most popular suggestions were mudroom and screened-in porch. A lot of people were really gung-ho on the wood stoves. I opted not to have a wood stove, but yes, to answer your second question, Kathleen, the home is nearly complete. We are working on the last room, which was going to be a screen-in porch, but now it is going to be a full season room, so I'll get to use it all year round. But very exciting process. So yeah.
I am traveling most of the year, and every time I go into a public shower in one of the RV parks that I'm staying at, I think of you, and I think of what I didn't tell you. I was one of the people who said make sure you have enough electric outlets, but
Yeah.
right, I'm sure I'm not the only one who said that. But then the thing that's bothered me about various public showers is you have to be able to change both the volume of the water and the temperature. They have to be changeable separately, because the place I'm staying in now, fortunately they have 2 bathrooms, and I mean in different parts of the RV park, and one of them the water comes out so strong it hurts.
Oh dear.
So and you can't change it.
Ah.
So my shower at home in Tamworth, you can adjust the pressure that's coming out so you don't get blown away by it. So I want to know if your shower head, if you can adjust the pressure as well as the temperature.
Well, that's a great question. So yes and no, and I'll tell you why. I had always dreamed of a rain shower. The shower head just directly over you, and just you're standing there and just getting soaked. So I have that, and then you can switch it to a traditional shower head coming at an angle, which has less pressure and doesn't hit you straight on. So I can't adjust the pressure of the water on either one, but I can switch back and forth. So and also I do have a lot of electrical outlets, so thank you for your suggestion. There are more than enough here, so but thank you, Kathleen. Anyone else have any questions?
Go ahead, Paul.
So Wyatt, your family's been here for 2.5 centuries. How does that impact your life and future?
My life and future. Whoa. Well, I'm proud to be the 11th generation who has lived for a period of time on Bryant Road, and it's a pretty neat thing that I can, that I know, I don't know where I was going with that sentence, but yes, I'm proud of that, and would love to, hope to have kids someday, and who knows what they're going to decide to do in the future when they're, grown up, and maybe they'll do the same thing as I've done, and move away and say they're not going to move back until they retire. But maybe hopefully they'll decide to call Tamworth their home. But I don't know. I mean, I think that what I can do is hopefully make my ancestors proud here at living here in town and kind of carrying on in their footsteps. And, that's all I can hope for.
Well, you got a whole community of people rooting for you, so.
Yeah, thank you.
Wyatt, this is Maureen Diamond again. I just want to say Amy just encapsulated it all. You have the whole community rooting for you, and totally, totally grateful for all that you and your family do and have done for Tamworth over decades. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. It's we get out of the town and the community what we put into it, and so it's a real pleasure and joy to contribute in any way possible. And we're all here for each other. I've seen it in the past many times, and it's a really special thing we have here. So yeah, that's why I moved back.
And maybe another quick question is about people your age. Do you feel like there's community of people a little more in your age bracket?
Yep. So yes, there is a surprising number of, I guess under 40-year-olds, I'll say, or just, kind of around my age group. I love having bonfires. People probably know that. And I invite a lot of young folks over. We have game nights. We've recently started a trivia team over at Hobbs on Mondays. And, I've kind of made it one of my unofficial missions to kind of find more young people. A friend of mine just purchased a home earlier in the year over on 113 between Tamworth and Chicago, friend from high school, and he's got 2 kids now. So cool to reconnect. I just reconnected with him a couple weeks ago, and yeah, it's great. I think there are more than meets the eye, but I think everyone's kind of, whoever you are, we're all hidden in our little corner of Tamworth until we show ourselves at an event or at the bakery or library or anywhere else. But so
That gives all us older folks such good feeling.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm not old, but
I wouldn't
some of
say
you
that, Amy. I was just gonna object to that comment.
are. Well, Wyatt, thank you so much. We're really grateful for your time. We're grateful for
you
who
all.
you are, and we're excited for all that you have going.
Thank you, and I'm excited to hear what Finn has to say next week.
Yeah,
So-
show up everybody next week and we'll hear about Finn's journey. So thank you, Wyatt.
All right, well, thank you.
Wyatt.
Thank you, everybody, for stopping in, and we've got a good turnout tonight, and I really appreciate you listening into my story. And so, but if you guys